Hey guys, welcome to the 11th episode of The Metal Intent, the show where we talk to your favorite musicians, producers, content creators. We get behind the intent on their music journey. And the 11th episode is a very special one. We have here Mike Stringer of Spiritbox. How are you, man?
Hey friend, how's it going?
Doing very good. Doing very good. I'm glad you are too. And I am happy as a fan of Spiritbox. I am a fan of your band.
Man, I first off, I just got to say, I'm really happy that we're able to do this because I know we've been going back and forth a little while, and I've just been so slammed, and I apologize, but I'm really happy that we were able to sit down and talk, and yeah, man, I've been a big fan of yours for quite a while, so this is cool.
Thank you. I'm very glad. If you're a fan of me, I guess you're a fan of yourself. I am the cover guy, so.
Yeah, I just love hearing my own songs all the time.
yeah, I think that's a very good thing. That's another topic, but I really like it when you really like something that you do and you want to listen to it over and over. That's usually a great sign, at least for me, that I've done something I'm proud of.
Well, you know what? It's just like you just do such an incredible job, and I remember I came across you a while back, and it was like you were doing these awesome covers, and you were playing like a Telecaster, was it? Are you still playing? Yeah, yeah. And then that mayonnaise competition came around, and I was rooting for you the whole time. I was like, this guy's got to take it. This guy's
You're an OG.
Win.
You're an OG on the channel.
Yeah, of course, man. And then when you won, I was very, very happy because, just it's great. It's awesome. So
thank you so much. I had no idea that you went back. I would have figured it would be like the first Spiritbox cover I did, but that's so sick.
No, it was funny because it was like I was watching your channel, and then I would watch your covers, and all of a sudden one of my songs popped up, and I was so pumped. I was like, hell yeah.
Fuck yeah. Nice. Well, I'm really happy to hear that story, man. I've always been like that. I mean, I've always enjoyed the cover. I've always enjoyed paying the homage. I've never been much of the writer. When I write, it's what you saw there in the mayonnaise competition. Like I write a riff. I write riffs.
Sure.
Maybe that will change in the future. But I mean, that's how it's been for me. And I'm curious if we go chronologically, how it was for you. So I am very curious to know, how does Michael Stringer pick up a guitar, Little Mike?
Oh man, yeah. So pretty much, my dad played fingerstyle guitar a lot, and when I was first starting up with music, my parents did the classic, like, force me into piano lessons.
Okay.
And I think I started when I was like 5, and I loved it. I was obsessed with it. I did it for many years, but late at night, I'd hear my dad ripping on the acoustic.
Hell yeah.
Like I would just kind of, in my brain, I just started going like, I want to do that. You know what I mean? Like, piano's cool, but I really want to, just branch out and start a new instrument. And that evolved into me begging my parents for a guitar. Couldn't be electric first; it had to be acoustic. So my dad came home from work one day, and he showed up with this like little tiny acoustic guitar that I still have. And from then on, I just quit piano, and I just was obsessed with guitar. So, and then that just progressed. I think by that time I was about 8 or 9 years old, and that just progressed into like listening to my brother's influences, which at the time were like all new metal, industrial metal, like,
all right,
old Metallica stuff. And then I just became absolutely obsessed with Metallica, and spent years learning basically every song. Just getting the down picking perfect, you know what I mean?
Same here, I relate.
Yeah.
Metallica was a thing.
Totally, man. And I used to, it got to the point where I was, it's kind of weird to think about, but I would just sit there and I would try really hard to play the song from start to finish without messing up a note. And it was very important to me at a young age to make sure that I could do that.
Yeah.
And those songs are just great to learn with. And, they have so much, so many intricate patterns and so many cool, like rhythm passages happening too. And so that kind of just from there, from like ages 12 to about 16, the music I was listening to got more involved. It got heavier. I started listening to bands like Protest the Hero. I was obsessed with a Canadian band here called Alexis on Fire, which kind of brought me into the whole like melodic, heavy, but then also having like singing behind it and stuff like that. And yeah, so I was obsessed with bands like Fear Factory, and I still loved like the new metal stuff. But at that time, I was just discovering all of these really heavy, low-tuned, well, for the time, low-tuned bands, and yeah, and it just evolved from there. And when I was 16, I remember I was just approached by a friend in high school who had a band, and he was like, "Do you want to come try out for the band?" And that's kind of what did it. So I joined that band at 16 years old and been ripping ever since, pretty much.
I see, man. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. What was that high school band? Was it the style you were listening to at the time?
So the thing about that was very much a band of like discovering, what we were all about.
We know what high school bands are. It's literally that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was my first band. It was called Fallen Archaea, and it was a little bit different though, because it wasn't like a band that we just kind of practiced or whatever. It was a band that we started, and about 3.5 weeks after starting, we went on our first tour. And so we jumped right into touring in high school. And our first material was very confused, and it was, it's still catchy, but at the same time, like, it's like you're writing your first songs. You're like, trying to put your stuff out in the world, and you're just discovering yourself in that way. So it wasn't until about our second or third record that we really like kind of started figuring it out. And long story short, I did that for about 4 years, I want to say. It's kind of blurry at the moment. Sorry, I can't be exact.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, we did a lot of touring, and I was like, this is it. This is all I want to do. And,
nice.
So that's kind of how that all started. So from when I was about 16 to 2021 was that band's lifespan, and
I see.
Then that moved into Iwabo.
Yeah, that's interesting, and it's good. I very much like to hear that you were in a space where your band could 4 weeks into existence go on tour. It's cool that you guys would have such an ecosystem.
It was our singer at the time. He was like a young entrepreneur. He was like the local show booker.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He had the mindset of like, and this was back in 2008. So like the internet, Facebook, Instagram, very, very different. And, even though that we were on an island in Canada, he was still like, we need to get out there and play because we need people to see us.
Yeah.
And, the tour was like one of those classic MySpace book your own tour things, but he did it all himself. And he had a van, and we just didn't know what we were doing, and we were probably horrible. But at the time, it was the coolest thing, because it was like, it was almost like a jump start into seeing what I wanted to do with my life that early. And I'm very lucky and fortunate that I got to experience that at such a young age, because some people don't go on their first like DIY tours until they're 20, 21, 22.
Right.
So it kind of gave me an expectation, and it kind of gave me a jump start of what not to do.
Yes, it's the most important. It's not what to do.
Yeah, but it's a learning experience, right? So it's like each time you do it, you get better at it. So
yeah, I relate. It's exactly what you said. Like, I've never played a metal show in my life. Like, for example, like, of course, it had to be the pandemic that cut what was going to be my first metal live show. But it proves a point that, you guys managed to book that, and you yourself, which is most important, managed to find out how much you actually like it before you commit the rest of your life into this.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't until later on where the band had developed and we had been getting some kind of regional success. And, it was just one of those things where the band could only go so far with the style of music that we were doing and being from where we were.
Yep.
And so, you just kind of, life just happens, and it kind of just gets in the way, and we all parted ways, which is fine.
Yep.
But, for that being the first go at it, I was like, I don't know, there's a lot more here that could be explored, and there's a lot more opportunities. So it's just one of those things that you get, like, it's almost like a drug, you know what I mean? You get very addicted to it, and you kind of just want more and more,
Yeah, it's cool.
That's the way I kind of feel.
It's a constructive drug.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
If anything, it's very good to hear. That's very good to hear. How do we go into Wrestle the Bear Once?
So that's a whole thing. Yeah. So pretty much once my band ended, there was another local band in our city called Unicron, and Courtney fronted that band.
Mm-hmm.
And Unicron, or I was approached to become their third guitar player, and it was Unicron was really cool. It was like hectic guitars, technical. It was pretty much a similar vibe, like guitar wise, to what I was doing. Very dissonant, fast tapping, kind of like the whole just gross sounding, but at the same time it had more of a melodic sense because Courtney would sing as well. So there was these really catchy choruses and stuff. And so I was jamming with them and getting to know them for about like 6 months. And Courtney, out of the blue, one day got a message from I Wrestle the Bear Once's manager and said, "Hey, I know you don't know me. My name is Jason, and I manage I Wrestle the Bear Once. They just lost their vocalist, and they've come across your band on YouTube. Could you fly out tomorrow, and could you be in the band for the remainder of Warped Tour?"
Warped Tour.
Yeah, and so 9 hours later, she was on a plane, and she filled in for the rest of the summer, which then turned into her, going on a world tour with them, and then doing a record with them. And I would go out and visit her a lot. And I'd go visit her on tour, and I got to know the guys really well. And about a year into that, they lost their guitar player. So I basically, the moment that I found out, because I found out while it was happening, I texted the guys and I was like, "Hey,
hello,
hi, I'll pay my own flights. I don't care. I just want to be on the next tour. I'll just fill in. You won't even know I'm there. You know what I mean?" Like,
I get the vibe.
And they were nice enough to say yes. And that was that. So Courtney started with them in 2012. I started with them in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And we did that until about the end of 2015. And again, talk about crash course into
learning experiences.
Learning about that. Like the first tour I did with them, I was like, oh, like this is how it's supposed to be.
That's another level, yes.
Yeah, so definitely interesting experience. But it was really cool because I was very used to playing that really fast tapping, dissonant, crazy style, and Iwabo presented that in a really cool way, but then also incorporated like jazz breaks and like samba beats and all these really crazy elements that would come out of nowhere. So as a player, it was really challenging to kind of like switch my mindset over to that a little bit.
It made you grow.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. It was like, I was learning how to do the pitch shifter on the Axe Effects and stuff at that time.
Yeah.
And like, you know what I mean? So all these things kind of set me up, as lame as it sounds, like it kind of like set me up to like when Spiritbox time came, it was like these like new tricks I had up my sleeve that I could be like, so we did that till about 2015. And then the beginning of 2016 is when we started writing the first Spiritbox record.
I see. Okay. So that's, you touched exactly on what the point is, which is in getting this backstory. And I like that I very much like that you added how it changed for you in terms of playing as well, because the musical material, of course, changes, so that we can really get down into like, what is the musical intent behind Spiritbox? Because at the end of the day, it's still you and Courtney. But I am very curious, what changed that you guys started writing what you call a Spiritbox album? What changes between both scenarios?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, as I was just saying, like Iwabo shared consistencies with Unicron, and it shared consistencies with my old band Fallen Archaea. And I just at that point was like, I don't want to do that anymore. You know what I mean? I don't want to do like, I don't want to call it like shock value, because it's not. It has its own place. Like I don't want to just put dissonant tapping in parts for the sake of like, how it sounds. I would much rather write a more like, interesting riff rhythmically. You know what I mean? I would much rather write a groovier song as opposed to something that's just flashy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the mentality that we have with Spiritbox. It was just like, if we're going to start this and we're going to do this, we're going to control who mixes it. We're going to control who engineers it. We're going to, we're going to control the videos. We're going to control everything and just have it be exactly what we want. Because, the one similarity me and Courtney had was that, a lot of the times we'd have to compromise on a lot of things, which is normal, in certain bands, especially when you're coming in after the fact. But with this, it was like, we're getting a fresh start here. Let's try our best to just not worry about what this is. And if the songs are what we enjoy and what make us happy and we like the sound of them, screw it. Like, let's just do it. You know what I mean? And let's make it as clean as possible, and let's make it as big sounding as possible. And definitely, I listened back to the first record, and obviously it's like a blast from the past now, because we started writing that like 5 years ago, which is crazy to think.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we accomplished that because it's very different than our old material that we had done previously in other bands. And I feel like it's definitely a lot more, even though it is more of like, that record is more proggy, it's definitely more focused on just like memorable moments and trying to figure out songwriting and trying to figure out how to structure a song.
Right.
We had never done that before. So that was a great experience.
Yeah, I get that. And I think this context is super important and that the listeners will appreciate, because I myself am appreciating, because the intent comes through. I at least as a fan, hear Spiritbox as this, I hear this consistency that you're talking about. And it speaks to something that Jesse, the last guest from Era, of course, was talking about, which is when he listens to his past stuff, which he looks back at fondly, he says that there's just so much value in getting stuff out of your system.
Yeah,
that's the way he put it. And it's not that he looks at it, it says it in a negative light in any way. It's just literally getting stuff out of your system until you distill yourself to something a little bit more focused.
100%. That's such a great way of putting it too. And I feel like I definitely got a lot out of my system in, the many years before in those bands, just kind of, trying to push the riffs. I mean, I wouldn't even call them riffs. I would just call them the tapping sections,
exercises,
and stuff like that. The exercises out of my system. And yeah, ever since then, the first EP came out, and it was definitely a shock that people seem to enjoy it. And then we just tried to really focus on the songwriting aspect moving forward. And it's been a wild ride since, just kind of seeing it grow and seeing more people hop on the train. It's pretty crazy.
Absolutely. It's all you could ask for. I like this context, because me myself, as we listen to more recent Spiritbox, that distillation comes even more. It's even more focused, because the 2016 stuff just completely sounds like prog compared to now.
Yeah, it does. It definitely does.
Which is crazy that you're telling me there's like 5 years of another funnel of crazier stuff.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah,
I gotta go listen to some of that.
I'll link you some stuff before when we're done.
Right.
But yeah, and the main difference between the original stuff to where we're at now was just the experience of working with our producer Dan, and he's mixed everything. He just finally got to produce the singles we put out last year, the Rule of Nines and Blessed Be, and now Eternal Blue. And the biggest thing is, like, he would just be like, why are we not incorporating Courtney in the songwriting process? Because usually the way that I would do it is I would write a complete song, all the instruments, everything, get it ready to go, and just give it to Courtney, right? Yeah. And that doesn't really work that well in hindsight. Like, it's just one of those things where there could be a part where it's not the right key, or it's maybe it just doesn't really flow that well or whatever. And of course, like a lot of that comes down to, you know, budget and time and everything, but I still could have been including her on that process. It's just that we're so used to working separately. You know what I mean? I'm telling you, man, the moment that we actually would sit there and write together, and I'd present parts together and we'd go over things, and she immediately would go on the mic and she would just kind of hum the first melody that would come to her head, even if it was just gibberish. That's when the song started to get a little bit more glued and become a little bit more cohesive. And we started doing that first with Rule of Nines and Blessed Be. And then from there, you know, with the whole Eternal Blue stuff too. And those two songs were written at the same time as majority of Eternal Blue. So we started doing that with this album essentially. And I think it's made a world of difference for sure. Actually granting her the space to exist, you know what I mean, in the song, as opposed to just trying to put her on top. Yeah. Because she's you know, the biggest part of our band, you know, is Courtney. So why are we not, you know, involving her in this really crucial process? You know, so
I love hearing that because as a fan, you can also tell that from Rule of Nines on, Blessed Be and so forth, something did change. Something did. That's so cool.
It was the production, and it was also the, you know, the whole incorporating her along for the ride while we were writing. Definitely.
Yeah, I can imagine, because if I can hardly ever bring myself to write a bigger song, not that I force myself, going in and adding someone to that process, how that might have felt tricky to add someone, and you might have even been hesitant a little bit, and it's your wife.
there's that aspect too.
There's a lot there.
Yeah, you know, like I remember we would go to record, and you know, the songs would have been written for about 6-7 months, and her going to record the vocal will be the first time that I'm in real time discovering what she's written. Right. You know what I mean? And that's the final process basically before mixing and everything. Yeah. So actually, you know, right off the bat, being able to have discussions where instead of saying this, say this, or maybe we can go to this note instead, you know what I mean, is just so huge. And it has just changed the overall product. And yeah, it's definitely for the better, for sure.
That's cool. I really like hearing that. I'm wondering, I have bandmates. I have discussions with bandmates. And I'm wondering, at the end of the day, you're in a band with your wife. So how do you guys, if at all, handle creative differences? I am curious if there's any interesting stories, or if anything, it looks like it's amazing, and that when you join forces is when everything is the best. But sure, it is also work, I bet.
Yeah, it's real life, you know what I mean? Like there's day to day, you know, things come up, and you know, the way that we go about, I mean, like, okay, for instance, like Blessed Be, I think we wrote 6 or 7 different choruses for that song, vocally, right? And then once we find, like, and it was like, at that point in the band's career, it was like, okay, we have 5 days in dance studio. This is the first time we've ever flown out to record anywhere. Everything's always been done in my parents' basement. Very like kind of just, we'll send it out. We have unlimited time to work on this type thing. But this was a time crunch where it was like the first time we've been working with a producer in a studio, and things just weren't really clicking with that song and with that chorus, I should say. And it was just kind of like, you know, a situation where we had to be real, and we just had to be like, look, this is not how we thought it was going to be. So let's figure this out. And, you know, that turned into a whole thing where, well, now that we're changing Courtney's melody, I can now change the guitar melody. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, it's not easy. It's definitely difficult. It doesn't matter if it's your significant other, or if it's your best friend, or it's someone distantly across the country. You all have to be on the same page that whatever you're doing is for the betterment of the song. it's got nothing to do with ego. It's got nothing to do with anyone having a moment, you know, to shine or whatever.
Yeah.
It's whatever's going to make the song best. So it's like in those situations, it's hard, but like you have to just be honest and just be like, I just don't think this is where it needs to be. And I think that we need to spend a bit more time on this to get it because we're close. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that part of it can be a little bit difficult, but then other times it's seamless and it just seems like it was meant to be and it was done before we even started creating it. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's hard. It's very difficult. There's so many things that can change the writing and recording process, even if it's just someone kind of just being a bummer. You know what I mean? You just
mood, dude. Yeah.
Huge. That's huge. Yeah, you have to definitely be in a good mood. And yeah, I feel like that plays a big role for sure. It's just how everybody is around you, and you know, trying to be stern, but also not negative. Like,
yep.
I've had to work on that quite a bit because I definitely get in my own head, and I'm just I almost like panic because I'm in the moment of struggling with a part or whatever. I'm thinking about we only have 2 weeks left.
This is not what I thought it was gonna be. Yeah.
Yeah, like we don't have much time. We got to keep going. So, but you know, if you guys can all be on the same page and just be honest with one another,
yeah,
it just speeds things up so much quicker. You know,
that makes sense. I think the most important part you touched on is it doesn't matter, friend, bandmate, producer, significant other. Does not matter if you're all there to serve a song.
Yeah, yeah, that's the goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just to come out with a great song. So what are we going to do to get there? Are we going to, you know, walk on eggshells around one another and just hope that it, you know,
that it works
that it works, or are we just going to be direct and be like, I'm not feeling this?
Oh yeah, I'm not feeling this moment. That's a big one. I know exactly what you mean. That's good, man. Yeah. That's good. I like it. I like it when I hear things like I had to work on myself. That's always what I find too. It's like you find stuff that you yourself can do better to better serve the song, to better serve your listeners and help them release the most emotion when consuming your material.
Yeah, big time, man. Definitely.
Hell yeah.
That's what's important.
That's the vibe. All right. Yeah. So we have all that context, all that chronology, all that intent behind songwriting, and we reach Eternal Blue coming out in, what's the date?
September 17th. It feels like it's still 1,000 years away.
Yeah, but. Right. Because if the way you told me, you guys have songs for that like 2 years and 3 years back. That's crazy, man. I am wondering, Eternal Blue, is there any... Sometimes albums are just a collection of your best songs, and that's fine, and that's some of my favorite albums of all time. Does Eternal Blue have a link? Is there something about it, something about the songs, maybe lyric themes? Is there anything there that you feel makes it had to have been these 10 songs or 12 or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah, you know, well, the record, we tried our best to make the record have to be one that you have to listen to from start to finish.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not like it's like a concept thing or whatever. Right. It's just that the way that it's sequenced, the way that it all flows with one another, it's intended to be listened in that way. I think what really made us certain that it had to be these particular songs is like, you know, majority of them were written before the pandemic. They were worked on well before. You know, most of the songs were actually written before even we had Zev come on board and before that tour that fell apart, you know?
Right.
And then when all that happened, it was, you know, it was kind of one of those situations where every time we get ready to record, a new restriction would happen or travel would still be cut. And the three that I think we added 3 near the end that were just angry song after angry song after angry song, because, you know, like you could see it, you could feel it, you know what I mean? It was like every time we booked studio time, it was like, nope, that's cut. We'd go and book another Airbnb. Nope, we can't do that. We'd book flights. Nope, we can't do that. And it was month after month after month. And it got to about the 8-month mark, and I was like, this record is just never going to be done, or we're going to have to do it fully remotely, and I just can't do it. I can't do this record remotely. Like, And we took it upon ourselves to do a couple singles remotely, and thankfully it worked out. Like the Holy Roller and Constance, we recorded those over Zoom.
Yeah.
But I think what makes it really special is that we were able to add those final songs at that time while there were still restrictions, and we were able to send the ideas back and forth and work on them remotely, and getting together and putting them together. Just, I don't know, it just all seemed to fit because it was like a timeline of the world before, and then a timeline of what was going on at that moment. And you can kind of feel it, as weird as that sounds. It's like you can hear the softest song we've ever done, and then you can hear the heaviest song that we've ever done.
Yeah.
And, you know, people might find that to be weird that that's on the same record, but at the same time, it's all based on how we were feeling. And when you listen to like the heaviest shit that we made on that record, it's because we were at our frustration levels were at an all-time high. We were just so sick of holding on to this thing that no one had heard. You know, we've been working on this record for over 2 years. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's mental. And so there's a few on there that are straight to the point, just stupid heavy, pissed off. And then there's a couple on there that are just, you know, really atmospheric, really almost like, you know, it has like, there's one on there especially that has a like major like Billie Eilish vibes and stuff, and it's definitely like more of like a pop song. But yeah, I think that's a long-winded answer, but I feel like that's what makes this you know, very special, and an album, because it actually incorporates all those moments and incorporates a lot of those feelings.
I see. Nice. So it's almost autobiographical, you know.
A little bit.
It's called Eternal Blue. I kind of get it.
Yeah.
I kind of get it.
You know, it's being forced to work in that way it makes you create in a different way too. You know what I mean? Like, it's definitely not the same as getting in a room. Like having to work over Zoom is, I'm so thankful for it. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, not being there in person, you know, it's crazy. So like, you know, Dan, we would go on Zoom and Dan would take control of my computer and he would engineer our sessions.
Yes.
You know, and that's amazing that we can do that, but it just doesn't feel right.
It's not having Dan in your kitchen.
No, yeah, and funny enough, that's what ended up happening because we rented a house and we rented a house in the desert to record the record.
Sick.
And it was amazing. We rented it in Joshua Tree, and it's when going down to the States was still a little sketchy. You know what I mean? Like they were still doing pretty bad. But we just were like, you know what? We have to get this done. We have to go do it. Let's do it in the safest way possible. Let's just be out in the middle of nowhere. And we found this house on a 20-acre property in the desert, and we lived in it together for a month.
Damn.
And Dan set up a studio literally in the dining room, so you weren't far off.
Okay.
And we just lived it day in, day out for a month and got it done. But I think it kind of, I don't know, it kind of presents its own feel in the final product, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think so.
No, it makes complete sense. Just when you change space, just changing space is huge. But the fact that you change space to be with your bandmate and significant other and the producer, and you're laser focusing on an album that ends up being about the recent struggles, and you're in the middle of fucking nowhere, that sounds like something you'll remember for the rest of your life.
Yeah, there were some great times and there were some not so great times.
Absolutely, I bet you.
Yeah, but you know, it's one of those things where it was like it's now or never.
Yeah,
and
that's where art is made, man.
Yeah, exactly, right? You know, like it's. I think had we not taken that opportunity and had we not gone and done it, I don't think the record would have come out the way that it did. And I'm just, it's very weird to me how it's like, it feels weird that it's still not out. You know what I mean? I wish everyone could hear it, but I'm very excited for everyone to hear it. I'm very, very excited.
Yes, I can't wait until people hear it, come back to the episode and be like, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so, man.
That's cool, man. Well, very nice. I am also wondering, Spiritbox, and thankfully, has, just like you said, been exponentially getting new ears into the band, new eyes, and very well deserved. And I was wondering about a topic that has been crossing my mind recently, which is about fan expectations. Because I talk about this with my musician friends, with some producers, and it's interesting because I'm also historically very critical. Might not be the best way to introduce the topic, but I'm historically kind of critical of reaction videos. I say this very frequently. I even talked to Nick Nocturnal on the podcast about it. We had a very, very productive conversation. And it's interesting because we live every day more in a world where just first impressions are very, very important. Because we're just getting more and more impressions of different stuff every day. And you guys have absolutely honed in visuals, honed in audio with Dan. So there's that going. But Courtney tweeted, that's what I was going to say. Courtney tweeted something about, especially metal fans. She was wondering why are we more attached when a band does do something different? Why do we feel more attached? And I was wondering, how do you think about that topic even? Because from where I stand, it just sounds like you do the best song you think, and then you let the audience hear it. But I'm interested if there's more there.
The whole fan expectation thing, for me, I very much am in the attitude of like, whatever we create, it's ours at the moment. And then we put it out there and it's everybody else's. It's no longer mine. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think we have a heightened sense of, being super glued to our computers and our phones, because just like the reaction videos, we live in a time where, well, that's about to suddenly change, but for the last while, we haven't been able to perform. And usually the artists, like the fulfillment comes from playing to an audience and then feeding off their energy, and then they go home and you feel great, right?
Yeah.
But the last little while, the fulfillment has come from the feedback from the internet, and that's all we have at the moment.
Right.
And again, I mean, it seems like that's going to change, and that's amazing. But for the last year and a half or whatever, it's like reaction videos, comments, all that stuff. It's like we're looking for it because that's the only way to tell at the moment if, people are enjoying what you're doing. So for me, I've been trying to chill out on like reading comments. I've been trying to chill out on like hanging on to every word and being very critical. And I think that once we start playing and stuff, I'm not really going to care about that much anymore, because there's going to be a much more, crazy thing happening that, is
more
actually
direct,
doing it
more
for real, more direct, and because, let's face it, like the people are not going to say, like if anyone has something negative to say to you, they're not going to say it to your face. They're going to say it behind a screen. So you're going to come across like a lot of negativity because people feel like they're hidden and they don't have to actually be accountable for what they say. My expectation for it, and I find that this is mostly with metal, like I would hope that the average person wouldn't go out of their way to like, shit talk or just complain about stuff that at the end of the day they don't understand how it actually is supposed to be,
right?
Or they don't, But I think that's the reality with metal. But the problem is that the average person who enjoys metal and stuff, like they don't understand that a lot of this stuff is up to interpretation. And that kind of coincides with the reaction videos too, is that like, reaction videos that at the end of it, they start discussing the lyrics and the meaning behind the lyrics after listening to it first. One time. Like, you shouldn't do that, because that's it, just definitively saying what that means is you're putting it out to your audience and basically being like, this is what it means, right? But it's like, no, it could mean a billion other things.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the words are going to mean something different for each individual. Just like how that person who said, well, the snare sounds like shit. Well, to person B, that could be the best sounding snare they've ever heard.
Yeah.
So what is the point? Really?
Exactly. I always get to that. The show is the metal intent. What is the intent when you're saying something like that?
Yeah, what's the point? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's like when someone says, "Oh, she should have done that an octave higher." How do you not know that? Like, how do you know that we didn't try that?
Yeah,
it didn't sound good. How, like, do you think that us being so obsessed with our product and us taking 2 years to make this record, do you not think that we tried literally everything? You know?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you don't like it, that's fine. Like I'm not here to sell you on you have to like this. You have to go on and you have to be positive. You have to give us glowing reviews. This isn't like a restaurant where we're like, give us a 5-star review. That's not what this is. Yeah. It's just that there's a big difference between you feeling that way and then being like, I don't know, maybe it'll grow on me, and being, you know, somewhat normal. And then if it doesn't, it doesn't, and that's it. Versus just immediately going online and just typing and being, you know,
yes.
I don't understand that personally. I feel like that's a symptom of everyone having shorter attention spans.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel like quick videos, TikTok, all these things have kind of put some folks into immediately having to make a statement, immediately having without even thinking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's just the world that we live in, unfortunately, with the internet and with
right.
social media. Everyone wants a quick, like, I'm going to say something shitty so I get upvotes. Here I go.
Yeah, or I'm going to say something I think it's actually really, really cool, but it's too quick. You've done it too quick.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love the way you put it, because you got into my exact gripe, which is what I always say. Okay, so you consumed the material once. What's of the next 50 years of your life that you have to listen to that song again? What about that?
Music is permanent.
Yeah.
It will always be there. It's like people who freak out when a band's sound changes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the other things are a click away. You press a button, you can go listen to all the old material, and that will never change. You know?
Yeah.
So really, you're not really losing out. Maybe the next album will be for you, or maybe you'll listen to this album a little bit more than once, and you'll be like, actually, this is pretty sick. You know?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you don't, that's fine. But like, I just feel like in metal especially, there's something about an immediate, whether it's negative or whatever, there's an immediate response that's usually just like, it's just too quick. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, I just feel like, I just wish that people could kind of just let it simmer a bit and then make an opinion, whether it's good or bad. It doesn't matter. But like, just consume the material, you know? Like, it's like, I don't know. That's my major gripe with it. I guess my expectation, I just don't really have one, because I don't agree with a lot of what people have to say and how they say it.
Yeah.
So for me, my attitude is I create something, it's mine for a long time. And then once I put it out to the world, it's now theirs and I can move on to the next thing. And I'm hoping that once, you know, the other aspect of being a musician and being in a band becomes the norm again, I won't really care about that.
It will matter even less.
But unfortunately, the last year and a half, that's been our sense of fulfillment, is watching reactions, watching. It used to be that when you were young or whatever, you'd work on a record and you'd bring your friend into the car and you'd go, listen to this, I made this. Yeah. And you'd watch their face.
The real reaction. OG.
The real reaction of it. And it'd make you feel good because you're like, oh, sweet.
He liked it.
My friend liked it. Now, you type that in on YouTube, you can watch hundreds of people do that. I don't know if that's healthy.
Yeah, it borders on parasocial, like which can be part of the problem you're describing, where you think you have this very affectionate relation with a band because their material has helped you through stuff, and when they change, you do feel something, and it also makes sense that it's in metal, because we are in a genre that expresses very strong emotions. We attract an audience that really needs to express strong emotions. So they do grow attached. This makes a lot of sense to me.
and that attachment is incredible.
It's why we don't play jazz or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, there's something in it that we all became obsessed with. We were all the outcasts. Everyone who doesn't listen to this music would listen to it and laugh because they don't get it. But there's something really cool about everyone who does get it, because when we all get in a room, none of us have to explain to one another why he's screaming.
Yeah.
We just get it.
We get it. What I mean? And we punch each other in the face, man. That's
yeah, exactly. We beat each other up while it's happening. But the thing is like, yeah, I think that with metal, it's hypercritical, but it's one of the only genres to put a positive against my negative. It's one of the only genres that has such a dedicated fan base like this, where everyone's just super obsessed. You know what I mean? And for that, I'm very, very thankful. My only gripe is I just wish people would just take more time to say what they want to say in a more thoughtful way.
Yeah, I think you can apply that to general real life.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, it really is. It does come down to, and I believe it too, that the way technology is engineered, we just have been getting shorter and shorter in our attention span, and and I mean, being cognizant of that and actively working against it and deciding that I need this time to form an opinion is something that will benefit you greatly, and even the artist that's creating in this case.
Yeah. I mean, everything's timestamped. The amount of times that I've seen someone be like, this is shit, and then literally 24 minutes later, a comment below from the same person being like, actually, this is kind of cool. I like it.
No
you know what I mean? Like, it's like, why did you feel like you had to put that originally? Like, just like, let it, like, just discover it a bit. Like, it's like when you're watching a movie before the movie's ending, you're like, this movie sucks. It's like, wait till the end.
Right.
And if something, I mean, of course, like, especially in movies, if something's like so catastrophically bad, like, and that you're leaving the theater, okay, for sure, whatever. But it's like, if you're going into something that's got production value and actually has some thought behind it, like, yeah, give it some time.
Yeah, man. Giving it time. That's not a music lesson. That's a life lesson on the podcast, I believe. Yeah, man. Honestly, just sleeping on something. I'd like to touch on this because sleep for me is very important, because people always say, "Oh, how do you cover songs this fast? You're insane." And I tell people, like, if you try to cover a song like the day of, which I sometimes do, doing it the day of is exponentially harder than if you learn it, get a night's sleep, and then try to reproduce it. Like, processing stuff, just having a night's sleeping on it is how they say. Sleep on it. It's again, time. Again, resting on stuff. It's very important.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question that I have for you. Do you feel a lot of pressure to do those type of covers, to do those type of videos as quickly as humanly possible?
That pressure exists. I've been living better and better with it, but it's interesting because the incentive to doing it fast is that you literally get the traffic. So if you guys put out a song, the faster I can also make my version of it, the more of that traffic I get to enjoy, and the more I even get to promote your band. Like, everyone wins.
Sure, yeah.
But I mean, yeah, if you ask, does that pressure exist? Yes. But it gets better, because you start to realize, well, at this point, these people aren't here for the wow, it's full circle shock factor that you did it so fast. People are here for you.
And that's something that I've kind of thought of too, is like, I wonder how many people are looking at this, and instead of looking at it, from a cover standpoint, where like you can tell that you've gone in and you've mixed it so well and you've added all the production elements, and I mean, you do it so quick anyways, but like, does it kind of get in your head a bit that the majority of the comments are like, how'd you do this so fast, as opposed to, wow, this is an incredible cover?
Yeah. I get that. That is real. That is real.
Yeah.
And that does exist. And I thankfully am of the mindset, it just might be luck, it just might be the way that I was parented, where I can value both equally. If someone is amazed that it is fast, God bless you. I think it's pretty cool too. And if something says amazing layering here, how did you figure out the fucking piano? I really, really like this, and you can appreciate both, which you need to be able to. But I can say that for my stuff. But when I see people do it to other stuff, it's easier to spot, just like the way you're spotting it on my content. For example, when Secret Garden came out, Eternal Blue tracklist comes out, and people are... I said something similar, which was, oh, I was out here commenting, let's go, Eternal Blue forever, this is going to be the thing, hype, let's go. And then all the other comments, not all of them, but they read, oh my God, Sam Carter! Oh my God, Sam Carter!
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
You get the parallel? That. And it's interesting because I guess the parallel is, well, yeah, I did do it fast so that I would get eyes on it. And the parallel is, yes, you did get a feature to get new eyes on it.
Sure.
At the end of the day, like, there is intent behind us doing it either fast, getting features, but the comments are a weird one. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's totally, yeah, you're spot on, because and it is a bit weird, because you have to kind of, you can't, I guess you can't really think about it too deeply. You know what I mean? Like, you have to just kind of take it for like, well, you know, people are stoked.
Yeah, people are excited. And yeah, that's a good point. It was something I wanted to say before, where you said this song in this album, for now, it's mine. And you said something so important that if you want to go deep into it, it's just everything, which is when it's out there, like, it's now yours. It's now ours. It is now absolutely ours. And in that sense, you're not reading or taking in feedback the same way.
No, definitely
you're not. Like, it's final. It's a WAV file, and this is the WAV file that you thought best presented this part of your life, and here you go. I give it to you, and now every feedback that you hear is different, because you have made, and I can tell you do this, you made the mindset shift, because you clearly describe it from it's mine and now it's yours. I'll be here the first to tell you, there's not a lot of artists that do that, and that get hurt when they get too high on the positive comments and then are forced to be low on the low comments.
Yeah, and I mean, I really have a shift. You actually said that very well, is that I do have a shift in my mentality when it is released, because for right now, because no one's heard it, the people that maybe have negative things to say, I will take that a little bit more personally than when the whole product is out and someone's taking the time to listen, maybe not even to the whole thing, but the majority of it, and then they have something to say. I won't really care. You know what I mean? Because on September 17th, Eternal Blue is done. I am now moving on to the new record.
Yeah.
Because everyone now has to take time to digest it. Everyone now has time to incorporate it into their own lives. And my job is done, because I feel like if you hang on to it for too long, you know, you're not really able to move on to the new record. You're not really able to make new material. Otherwise, it's just going to be Eternal Blue Part 2. You know what I mean? Which I don't want. I want to move on and make something completely different now. You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do strongly feel that, like, maybe now, between now and September 17th, I'm probably going to be a little bit more, like, you know, protective of my baby. But the that, that it's released out to the world and the scary part of it's over and everybody's, listening to it. That's fine. Do with it what you will. It's now yours.
Yes, I love that because we can hold both. And Spiritbox being a band with a very open relationship with the fans, I feel you absolutely need to have both. You need to be able to, this is for you, and if you love it, it's the best thing I could ask for. And also, this is what I selfishly thought was the best product, and that's also all that matters to me. It's both. It matters most than everything what other people feel about it, and it also does not matter at all. They both exist at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a great way of putting it. It's a weird battle. It definitely is. It's a mental struggle. It definitely is. But at the end of the day, once it's all out there and people are consuming it, you can't control it anymore. So why worry about it?
At the end of the day, yeah.
Yeah.
you can't turn the bass down 2 dB, man.
No, it's the masters are submitted, man. They've been printed. They're done. But you said it best too. It's like, earlier on in this conversation, you said first impressions are everything. So right now it's still first impressions because people, first impressions of not even the full product. So I'm going to have a heightened sense of, oh man, shit. Like there's some people going at it in here. There's some people pissed. They don't like the song. But, when the whole thing comes out, hey, say as much negative stuff as you want. I don't really care.
Yeah, it's out here. And it's what I thought needed to be out here.
Yeah, definitely.
Fuck yes, man. I really like it. Okay. Very, very, this is a great conversation about the social aspect of music. Music is very, very social. And speaking of the social aspect of music, you guys are going on a tour.
We are.
Which imagine being social and listening to music and, right?
I myself, I have a hard time thinking about that.
Right.
I have a hard time. I'm at the point where I watch movies of people at an event or
and
whatever.
You start fucking crying.
And I'm looking at it and I'm like, there's so many people in a room. Look at that.
Yeah, where's the mask?
Where are the masks?
I know.
And so that the fact that we're going out and doing this so quick is it's kind of fucking with me a little bit. It's like, oh man, crazy. So but yeah, we're going on tour with Limp Bizkit.
Yeah. The one thing I did want to ask actually is Limp Bizkit. Spiritbox Limp Bizkit isn't the pairing that people would have predicted on the betting book. Like,
yeah.
What do you have to say about it?
I would have never thought this would have happened.
Yeah.
I'll be the first one to say that. I am absolutely floored and honored because Limp Bizkit was a huge, and Wes Borland, just that, if you want to talk about songwriting, that guy can write a song. Holy shit.
Nice.
He's just an incredible riff writer.
Yeah.
He's an amazing guitar player. And the pairing, in typical, quote unquote Spiritbox fashion, it's just, we always joke around. It's like this band, for some reason, just always has a lot of unconventional things thrown at its way, and it's always worked.
Yeah.
And, I think that a lot of people freaked out because they were like, actually, there was a lot of people angry about it. There's a lot of people that were commenting.
We've talked about it, yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that weren't stoked on that, but for us, it's like, this is the most incredible opportunity we could ever be given, especially at this moment in time.
Right.
And it's definitely, I think it's a great pairing. I think it's awesome because I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of riffs that I have been influenced, from Wes. I've taken a lot from him for sure. So, and you can, if you really boil it, if you really look at it, like, yeah, you can definitely hear it for sure. And yeah, we're just very overwhelmed thinking about it because we basically got the offer and they were like, you have 24 hours to accept.
Or deny.
Or deny. Yeah, you're free to do that too. But it's being announced in a week and a half, and you can either take it or leave it. And
And you read that and you go like,
oh yeah, like I basically went and curled up in a ball and went through every single
stage of denial.
Yeah, and I was just like, how are we going to make this work? Like, and we're just very fortunate that everybody involved on our team and they were like, we assure you we will make this right. We're going to help you throughout the whole process. We're going to get everything sorted. And yeah, like we accepted it, and sure enough, everything just lined up, and we're getting really close to leaving. So
oh boy,
it's happening.
Man, nah, I could feel the excitement like vicariously through you.
Yeah,
I can. Man, that's great.
It's just going to be such a weird experience because, I mean, for instance, we've never even played Holy Roller live.
Yeah, you played a demo version back then.
Yeah, we played a demo version that sounded way different, and like I don't know if you can see that blue thing right there. That's Courtney's vocal booth. And we sit here every day and we go over the set a couple times each individually, and yeah, and she'll get to a part where there's like a one-liner or something, and she's like, yeah, I just want to make sure I nail that and stuff. And in my head, I'm like, do you think other people are going to be singing along? Like, do you think like people in the audience are going to be yelling that?
Yeah.
Like, should you even do that? Like, we have nothing to base it on.
Right.
We have no baseline. This band has done like 13 shows.
Yeah.
And like back then when we did that Europe tour that got canceled, like there was still people there, and at that time it was mental that people were showing up to our shows like already wearing our merch, and some people in the audience knew the words. And now I'm thinking about it and I'm like, well, look at what happened in the last year, and we're about to go do these shows. Like, I mean, I would assume that maybe let's just hope 5% of the audience would know who we were and would sing along. So, it's just a crazy time to be doing this, and it's a crazy time to be back at it playing these songs that we've all had for years, but no one's heard live. Which presents a whole nother set of pressures and expectations, right? So, yeah, it's a really awesome time, but it's also a very
weird,
stressful time.
Of course, I get it. Yeah, if it makes you feel any better, I think people will be singing your shit.
I hope you're right. I hope so.
Yeah. I know. I think I relate to your thought process where it's you think about the stuff that can go wrong. And that's how you are ready when stuff is right. Is by preparing if it would have been wrong. But I mean, that's also the textbook definition of anxiety. But
yes. I'm really bad for that, man. I'll already assume the worst before we even, you know what I mean? So, and I agree with you. I think sometimes that can kind of set you up correctly for things just being smooth, and then you have this big sense of relief, and then your confidence gets boosted.
Oh yeah.
But at the other end too, it's kind of just like, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done. The more time you spend worrying about this that hasn't even happened yet, like, maybe we should just chill out a little bit and just. So Courtney corrects me a lot of the time when I'm in those type of moments. So I'm very thankful.
That's awesome. That's all you can ask from a team member.
Definitely.
That really is it. Good, man. I'm glad. I think it will go super well. I hope it does.
Thank you, man. Yeah.
Hell yes. So, funny enough, you touched on Wes as an inspiration in Limp Bizkit. I'm wondering, I almost always ask this to every guest, for what have been historically and in another different list recently inspirations, because at the end of the day we are a sum of what we consume. And what have you, what's on your mind when I say consume cool shit?
Man, I mean, as I was saying earlier, like the biggest one for me growing up was Hetfield.
Yes.
Hetfield was just number one, and then that moved over to Dimebag, for the left-hand stuff and all the, the crazy leads and everything. And then, from there it kind of shifted, and it moved on to like the guys from Protest the Hero. They were a huge inspiration on me when I was like 16. And then, like after in the Josh Travis from Danza and Amir, Glass Cloud, huge inspiration for me as well. And yeah, I mean, like now that I'm older and now that my priorities have shifted for songwriting and all that, I'm kind of going back to my roots of like the Wes Borland and the Monkey from Korn and those kind of back when metal was more acceptable and in the mainstream, you know what I mean? Like when new metal, like like Jim Root and Mick Thompson, the guys from Slipknot and stuff, like I look back at that time and I'm just kind of like, wow, these bands were the biggest bands in the world at that moment. And why was that? Was it because of this whole movement, or was it because a lot of people were drawn to their songwriting? You know what I mean? And I feel like, we can get back to a time where metal's more in the mainstream and metal is more accepted. And so I like I know it sounds weird to say, but I like studying that time frame because it's so interesting to me. Like, I mean, even if you watch Woodstock 99, speaking of Limp Bizkit, you watch Woodstock 99 of Limp Bizkit playing, and at that time they were like the biggest band in the world, hugest band in the world, and you can see it in the audience. Everyone's just going crazy. Like, why has that changed now? Why is metal kind of more like niche? And of course, you're always going to have like the Metallicas and the Megadeths and the Anthraxes and all that stuff, but like there hasn't been a new metal band to come out to really rise to that as of late. There just hasn't been that.
Yeah.
So I guess long-winded answer, but recently it's been more so looking at that time frame and looking at those bands that I used to love when I was a kid and just being like, what made these bands so special and what made that time so special? Because I'd love to, I want to focus on writing songs in that way. You know what I mean? Like, I'm over the technical aspect. I'm over a lot of that. And I mean, like, if a song requires technicality, then of course, we'll deliver it. But at the same time, I just want to write catchy music.
No, I get it. and the technicality is never wasted, because when you want to make something catchy, your technical background just physically tells you where the catchy note is.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
That's usually how I describe it. Like, my classical background, it's not wasted. It literally informs my fretboard presence to whatever sound I want to make. So, I definitely like that your recent inspirations have been your historic inspirations. So you've been on a full circle vibe.
I think so. Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
There's something really special about that time.
Definitely. Nice. What about stuff that has come out more recently? Is anything on your radar?
Let me pull up my Spotify.
That's usually a great exercise. A lot of guests have done that. They grab the Spotify, they go, this obviously, and then that obviously.
Yeah. Okay, I got a few here. So, Alpha Wolf.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Such a cool band, man. They are sick.
Alpha Wolf. They're the new energy. That's how I describe it.
I love Alpha Wolf. I listen to them most times in the gym.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, they're great. And so there's those guys I've been listening to a lot. A band called Dayseeker.
Mm-hmm.
Dayseeker is an amazing band. And here's the thing, like our producer Dan Bronstein, I'm just a crazy fan of. He has just been involved in some amazing records, and his ear is phenomenal. And so he actually produced the Dayseeker stuff.
Oh, I see.
And a lot of the time, like for instance, have you ever listened to the Via album by Volumes?
Yeah.
So that was mostly him and him writing that, and that's how I kind of discovered him, was through that band. So I will have to say Volumes too, because they're still killing it, and they have a new record coming out.
Sick.
And I love their stuff, and I've always been a huge fan of them. And honestly, dude, like through that, I usually go on Spotify and I listen to pop country playlists.
Yeah.
Because I I want to.
You want to get in tune with a song, like song.
Well, yeah, and you know what? I find that listening to material that is the polar opposite of what I'm used to doing, it just really it makes it so I'm not like influenced. You know, what's the best way to put this? It's like, because I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, why would you listen to that? But like, It's just refreshing after doing metal for so long and writing and practicing all day and stuff like that. To go and listen to something that's the polar opposite is like, it actually refreshes everything. It gets you out of that mindset. It gets you out of like breakdown mode and like, you know,
it'll
like
make you write better metal.
Yeah, I think so. You know, like I listen to a lot of John Mayer. I listen to just a lot of me and my bass player. My bass player actually has a. Do you know the band Florida Georgia Line?
Oh yes, like the biggest country guys.
Yeah. He has a Florida Georgia Line head tattoo. He's a huge Florida Georgia Line guy. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is pretty wild. But he's covered in tattoos anyway, so it's all good. Like it's not like the only one he has. It's just it's part of his collection.
That's crazy.
You know, like, and I'll listen to that because it's something. Not only is it so catchy and
they're bangers,
and they're just bangers, and the production value is through the roof. But like, it's just so fun to listen to.
Yes,
you know what
that's
I mean?
Such an important point, man. When you talk about Alpha Wolf, the first thing I do is smile because it's
fun.
It's insanely fun.
It's so sick. It's so heavy. It's so satisfying, and it's like, and the riffs are great. The production's great. It slams. You know what I mean? It's awesome. And I have the same attitude when it comes to top 40. I have the same attitude. And, the reason why that music is so popular, think about it, it's because it's like these artists go to the best producers. These artists go to the best songwriters. They have the best product. So it's like, of course you're going to like it. You know what I mean? Especially if you're in this field, you should be listening to that because your metal record should sound as good as that, in my opinion. I feel like you have to look at what's around you. You have to listen to everything because there's good production and good music and good songwriting in every genre. There's good tone in every genre.
Yep.
And to limit yourself to only listening to, breakdowns is just kind of unfortunate.
It could be a disservice.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Very nice. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's so valuable because I sometimes have people out here from Portugal to record at my place. Mm-hmm. And like it's been the best experience of my life to see. I get to see the new generation that's coming up. And like, let me tell you, the new generation is like, this riff kind of sounds like Mike Stringer. This kind of sounds like Spiritbox. Like that's a phrase I've heard.
Wow, so that's nuts.
I'd imagine you think so. And I am wondering, like, what's because I have interpreted your material, and I'm wondering, what is a Mike Stringer riff? Because like I recently I point to Secret Garden and the clean passage in the verses, and like that style of hammer-on, the fact that you'll riff very quick, very fast on a clean sound.
Sure.
I think that's you. How do you feel about this?
That's crazy to think about, and it's crazy to hear for sure.
You're making influence.
It's pretty wild. Yeah, it's wild, man. The internet's nuts.
Yeah.
That whole thing, the whole clean riff, the no cab sim, just basically a DI thing.
Yeah.
It was just made out of necessity because when we first started Spiritbox, I wanted there to be bass slapping. But we didn't have a bass player.
Right.
It was just the first record was just me and Courtney. So I was like, you know what? I feel like we can get away with me just doing it on guitar, and we'll match it with bass, and that will give it its own tonality. So anytime that there's like a clean, like, we have it in Mara 3, we have it in Secret Garden,
Belcara, Just
Nines, Belcara, yeah, all of those guys, you know what I mean? And that's just me trying to mimic what I can't do on a bass, because I record the bass and I write the bass, and I can't slap. So I'm just like, you know what? I'll do it on guitar, and it's gonna poke out more, and then the bass can just match it. And maybe I'll go as far as to get our producer to like add high end to the bass chain or something, so it kind of gives it that more like attacky feel.
Yeah.
But that's basically what that was. It's just like I just want it to sound like a slap bass, and I can't do it myself. So let's just do it on guitar.
Damn. I see.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's one of those stories where there's that saying that goes, creativity is just setting the correct boundaries or something like that.
Yeah, I feel like being very restrictive and just being like, well, we can't write this part because it's not in our genre. I think that's what limits a lot of bands, and I feel like if you're writing music, you shouldn't do that. You know what I mean? Like, you should just do whatever makes you happy. If hearing a slap bass part makes you happy, well, you can rather be smart and you can work on it and get it so you can do it yourself, or you can at least, have a workaround.
And maybe that workaround becomes your identity, man.
And there you go.
Imagine.
It's crazy to think.
So cool. I like that. I like that very much. I always thought you're correct me. I'm just curious as a fan. I always thought the cleans, like all the shimmery cleans in your material, they've always reminded me of Tesseract. You ever listen to Tesseract?
So, yeah. So one of the big reasons why we did, all the shimmery cleans, the glassy stuff and everything was because around in 2015, when I was still in Iwabo, I discovered Altered State.
You don't need to say anything else.
Yeah. And
oh my.
I was obsessed, and then I heard the first EP, and then what was the record? Was it Dystopia or was it Polaris? Sorry, Polaris. There it is. Yeah, Dystopia was the song.
Yeah.
Then I became obsessed with that album. And so the first record, I was just so enamored by this band, and I was just like, man, there's just something so special about these guys. And because we were just coming out of a band that didn't have much singing, especially the last album that we did, the last Iwabo record, Hail Mary, was very punishing and just 45 minutes of mayhem, basically. It was almost like I had found this band. I was obsessed with the band. My singer Courtney wanted to sing more, and so it was like, well, naturally, I'm now writing songs with this new influence, and Courtney wants to sing more, so let's just go for it. You know what I mean? Let's just write this music, and whatever happens, happens. But yeah, I will say 100% that the Glassy Clean thing is definitely like a Tesseract Monuments situation where I had just recently discovered the best way of how to do it, and I was like, I want this all over the record, because I was used to adding verb tails. I was used to adding a bunch of layers that were like atmospheric, but I had never gotten the chance to really explore that tinny clean sound, and I just was obsessed with it at the time, especially. So we threw that shit over everything.
They put that shit on everything, man.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love it. I love it so much because it's a sound that, I grew up on Altered State too, and it's just a sound that it just feels so familiar. It's just I feel at home when I hear an octaved clean sound. Like, it feels like home. And what's great about you using that in Spiritbox is that you're using this niche gent sound to convey a banger song. Like imagine if it was just like the top 40 was the exact same songs, but the layers, instead of it being synths, was Milton Cleans, English gent cleans.
Dude, I mean, did you ever watch the Enup Sastry, Drew Sif, Katy Perry,
that vibe
mashups? I mean, there's a reason why so many people liked that shit. Like, that was insane for the time. And
right.
I still it's great. I love it. I'll still listen to it from time to time because it's so ahead of its time in a sense. You know what I mean? And you just nailed it. It's like, imagine if you took, a pop singer like Katy Perry with those songs that are already so incredible and catchy, and then he just threw over like modern metal influence over top of it, and that's, I mean, I guess in a roundabout sense what we did with the first album, without really, like just trying to write catchy songs that were a little bit more straightforward. And then we had like a female singer over top that was doing that majority singing with, like kind of gent, I guess you could call it gent style cleans and stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah.
The D word, go.
The D word, yeah. So yeah, that's actually interesting that you bring it up like that, because it's a somewhat similar situation for sure.
Yeah, I love it, man. It feels again, it just feels consistent. It feels full circle. It feels like something that serves a song, and it just makes sense when you put all this stuff together that we like Spiritbox, man. I think it just makes sense.
Well, I really appreciate it, man. Yeah. It's been a bit of a journey, and I still have a lot of learning to do. I still have to hone in on my craft a little bit more and everything, but I'm very, very ecstatic that we're getting close to the release date, and I can't wait for everybody to hear the record. And yeah, it's just wild to think that we're this close.
Hell yes, man. I approve. Yeah. So yeah. Final thoughts, Spiritbox in the future. Like, is there any specific thing that you really want to accomplish, for example? You both, or you three, for as a band? What's like a long-term thing?
Consistency. That's going to be the biggest thing for me. I think that it's hard because, as I've been saying this whole time, you have to be true to what you're passionate about and what you want to convey. At the same time, though, as you get more popular, a machine starts working behind you, and money's involved, and
right,
sales figures and stream numbers and ticket sales and all that stuff. And the challenge moving forward is going to be keeping true to ourselves and still writing interesting music, and still writing music that people want to hear and will be able to relate to, while still being quote unquote successful, whatever that looks like.
Right.
So what I would like to accomplish with the new material is exploring new avenues without people just putting it to the side like we've like sold out or something. You know what I mean? Like, for me as an artist, I would love to create simpler music. I would love to focus more on how this will be conveyed live. I want it to be an experience live. I want you to come to the show, and I want you to hear it. I want to work more, even further on the production aspect. I want to go even deeper with, certain aspects of all that. And I hope that we can do that. And I hope that we can be a band that will come out with chiller songs, more straightforward songs, and people will accept it. You know what I mean? And there are some songs on this record that are definitely going to, make people question a lot, and they're going to be like, I don't know about this. And that's okay. They're meant to grow on you a little bit. But yeah, like I want to be able to just put out whatever we want and have people kind of just be like, okay, like, yeah, I get that they're doing this now, and maybe I'm not into it or whatever, if that's the case. And then later on, maybe we can win them back with a different thing, because this band is always going to just be genreless. There's always going to be a variety. There's always going to be, a difference in each song. Where I don't personally feel like we're going to release the same song twice.
Yep.
So the challenge is going to be, it's going to be very difficult in that sense to keep the old fans happy. But I guess it's every band. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, and if you want to grow as an artist, you just have to do what you want to do. But I think the big thing is just consistency and just being proud and standing behind whatever we make. And I think that it's going to be a learning experience to have the industry people, maybe kind of turn on us a little bit and being like, no, you have to do this.
Right.
You know what I mean? Meanwhile, we're like, well, we actually kind of want to do this song with all synths and no guitar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know, but yeah, consistency is the main thing. I just want to make consistent records and hope that people enjoy them.
Yeah, you want to be consistently different.
There it is.
There it is. My guy. Well, this was an epic episode, and Eternal Blue comes out what date?
September 17th.
September 17th. They're on tour with Limp Bizkit in 10 days. 10 days from recording, so probably like a week from when it's out. Go see them.
Yeah.
Like we all want shows. You're getting shows near you. You go see a show. It's that easy. I hope it's that easy. I hope everything goes well, man. And thank you so much for coming on.
Dude, thank you so much for having me. As I said before, I've been a huge fan. I'm so glad we were able to make this happen, and I hope that we get to talk again soon.
Hell yes, man. Take care.
See you soon, bye.